Hello, this is Dean Phoenix with the last part of my Dead Space 2 Hardcore and Zealot walkthrough. If you're playing on Hardcore, I like this to be the last save point that I make. You can leave it a little bit later and make your third save before the eye poke machine, which is what a lot of people like to do. But I like to have done it before the room with the spinning lasers there. That also takes... the room with the spinning lasers isn't so bad, and that also takes care of this room, which is one of the more difficult ones in the game, regardless of what your loadout is. Now, this room has 3 levels. The last level is just a brute, which after all the other stuff is fairly easy to deal with. You have to be very careful with this, so if you possibly noticed whilst I was just showing my inventory before coming into the room, I had a lot of contact ammo. I still had a lot of spears, as I showed at the end of the last video. You stock up on that before chapter 12 if you're using the javelin gun, and then the Ripper, which never needs much ammo in it. I prefer to come at the room from starting on this right hand side. The regular necro there that just spat at me is one of the regular necros where the spit actually hurts you, unlike the pukers, which just slow you down. That can actually do a fair amount of damage on hardcore and a lot of damage on Zealot. So just be careful, because there's a couple of enemies. There's a mix of the regular necros that spit, and there's another one of those just there. The pukers, which will also slow you down and hurt you a lot if they get close and throw up on you, and then regular black necros just to be a pain in the backside. So you can use the Ripper for those, or the javelin gun if they're at medium to close range. Catch the spit back and throw it back whenever possible. The exploders in this room, there are a couple, there's 1 or 2 on each level as well. And make sure you stasis them if they ever get close to you or anything like that. The same goes for any of the dangerous enemies. If they get close, make sure that you've got a couple of stasis packs, so that even if you are out of stasis, it'll recharge and use it before you need to do that. So just catch the spit, make sure you stay back and take out the waves of enemies. There are 2 waves of enemies on this first level, so you take out all the initial ones there. And if you come towards the door like this, sometimes it won't actually spawn the enemies. It's when you come towards the door to exit the level, when you come at it from this side, then the extra enemies climb up, and again it's a couple of regular necros that are spitters. And you can just ripper those off the edge there. The next level is a little bit trickier still, because even though it's roughly the same size room, I don't know why, but it always seems like it's slightly more claustrophobic on the next set, possibly because of where the actual vents are placed, where the enemies jump out, and the way that they come down. So there are 2 enemies here in this corridor for a start, including that puker. So if you slow them down, you can turn around and take out the enemy that comes behind you, and then sort out your inventory, reload your weapons, and make sure you've got everything sorted for the second level. When you go to the second level again, you've got a couple of different things. There's a regular necro that does the spit that can hurt you. There's also a couple of pukers and an exploder, and a few black necros as well. Now, depending on which side you come from, if you go this way, as you get to about this point, this is where they jump out. Now, if you use the contact beam, even though it's the exploder that comes out first there, I'm able to take out on the secondary if you have fire from the contact doesn't detonate the exploder's sack. So you do have to be very careful. If the exploder comes out first, you're probably better off actually just slowing it down with the stasis first, and then getting your distance and sorting that out. So again, there's 3 or 4 necros all come at once. The puker spit actually killed that one there for me, so you know, good guy necro helping me out. But just be very careful, because they'll come out in like a slightly random order, whereas most things you can predict the exact spawn point that things will come out. You have to be very careful, and mostly you stick to the contact beam. This is part of the reason why you want to save up some ammo for the contact beam and upgrade it in the first place, because it is so good. So there was the puker and the spitting regular necro at the same time. And again, you just got to be careful of the fact that there will be dangerous enemies coming out at a couple of different types and all together, and just be mindful of the fact that you need to be using your stasis and your weapons to keep your distance, and don't be afraid to use your contact beam ammo. The contact beam will be the main weapon for most of the actual chapter 13 playthrough. So when you come down here in this corridor, there isn't anything else to fight. There's just a couple of things here, and there is a door to hack at the end of this room. Don't start hacking the door right away, because as you approach the panel, a black brute will come out, and obviously that's the more dangerous type of brute as well. There is a stasis canister down here which will put it in stasis for a long time, and you can use any of the Ripper or the javelin gun or the contact beam to take it out quickly. If you use the Ripper, try and hit it in the shoulder blades like that, take its head off and things. You can kill it with 1 or 2 Ripper blades depending on how it gets hit, or you can just use the Javelin or the Contact Beam, and either of those is easy. Again, keep it stasis and just take it out. The rest of chapter 13 is pretty self-explanatory. Most of it's running away from the Ubermorph. I actually didn't get a shot of the eye poke machine, which is a shame because that clip failed for some reason. But as you'll see in this last section here, you get lots of Contact Beam ammo. I haven't had to buy any Contact Beam ammo, I've just been hoarding it through the game. Because once you've actually got the Contact Beam, you want to stop selling any of its excess ammo, because even though you can sell it for a lot, saving it up to have lots of Contact Beam to do the end of the game is much better, and that's part of the reason why you get the Contact Beam upgraded in the first place, because as you can see, between its 2 firing modes, when it's fully upgraded, it's just an amazing weapon, and it makes chapter 13 and the end of the game a lot easier, as you'll see coming up. So although this is right at the end of the game, this tactic for how I take out the Ubermorph here is what you should be using throughout all of chapter 13 as it appears. Every time it turns up, just either take off all of its limbs with the Javelin gun, or probably a Ripper blade, take off all 4 limbs and then hit it with the secondary. Now the secondary does an extremely long stasis, so you can hit it with the secondary of the Contact Beam, put it in stasis, and then just use the Contact Beam to take out everything else as well. As you'll see as you're going through, you just don't need to waste any time. If you get touched at all, then just make sure you've got plenty of health packs, and obviously take those out as well. And the Contact Beam just makes absolute mincemeat out of everything. The place here will have 2 of the Black Necros. You can wait for the Ubermorph to catch up here if you want, and take him out in this room, which is probably the better way to do, but if you're being a little bit impatient like I am here, you can just go on, and there is a Black Leaper here, and then a Black Spitter. Now the Black Puker, I actually missed catching that here, and this is an example of how not to do this bit. If you get hit by the Puker, stay away from the vents, which is exactly what I don't do here. I get whacked by the Ubermorph. Now this footage is actually on Zealot, so he did a lot of damage, but that's with a full health upgrade, and he still did half my health on Zealot, so you have to be very careful. On hardcore he's not quite so dangerous, but he still does an absolute ton of damage, so just keep your distance, make sure he's stasis, and use the Ripper on him whenever possible, and just use the Contact Beam for all of this section, and indeed much of the last chapter. You'll probably find that if you've stuck to just these 3 weapons instead of putting a lot of upgrades into a 4th weapon, you might have quite a lot of money left. Now, because of the way that I play and the way that I always sell everything that I have excess, and the way that I know exactly what I'm upgrading, as I've been showing in these videos, I have a very specific way of playing, and it always ends up with me having a lot of credits. So if you don't have tons of excess credits, don't worry about it. As long as you've got those weapons, and particularly the Contact Beam, you should be absolutely fine. So just make sure that you use the Ripper and either secondary contact fire the Ubermorph and keep him down. So here a Black Leaper will always come right towards you, and that's another useful part of having the Ripper there, is you can take that out. And then there's a couple of the Black Lurkers, and a Black Necro jumps out as well, and you've got to be mindful that at some point the Ubermorph's going to turn up here. So if you can get to this actual door and take them all out before the Ubermorph catches up, that's useful. You take out the Ubermorph one more time, put him down, and then you've got the section with Tideman and the last boss. Now this is where the Contact Beam is absolutely crucial. Even if you've not been following my exact setup and having the Contact Beam by the point you get to this part in the game, I would severely recommend that you respec before you've got to this bit, so that you've had the Contact Beam for the section that I've just shown here. You can just wait for the core to be exposed, and with the upgraded charge of the Contact Beam and it doing such massive damage, you can just take it out in a couple of shots. Every time Nicole turns up, you can shoot her with the contact, and if you shoot her quickly enough, the shadow pack won't get you. If the pack do get close enough, or she gets close to you, you can just use the secondary fire a bunch of times. It slows her down like any other enemy, it kills the pack, and once the core's exposed, the pack will disappear before they can get to you, and you can take it out very, very quickly. Hope you found that useful, and I hope it helps you get the achievement. Thank you.